Good morning, my friends. Happy Monday. Hope you've been doing well. I have been putting this off all day. It is currently 3:08 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. My intention was to do it at 7 a.m. this morning, but I found every other excuse under the book. Things that needed to be done that didn't actually need to be done. Procrastination is a bitch sometimes, isn't it? But I'm here. I'm in your ear holes. It's time to talk shit. It's time to listen to me. And today we're going to be talking about gaining muscle. All the gains. No fat gain, just pure muscle. I'm going to share with you the secrets you need to know to basically gain the next 15 kilos of muscle within 3 weeks. All you need to do is buy my special cream that you rub on twice a day into your eyebrows. Have to specifically be your eyebrows because that's where the anabolic receptors are. You do it twice a day for the next 2 weeks for the cost of only $999,000. So those angel numbers for you, 9999999, and you too can gain 15 kilos of muscle within the next 2 weeks. And people are going to look at you and think, damn, he/she/they is jacked. But seriously, I'm going to talk to you guys about muscle gain today because I had a question on my podcast. No, I didn't. That's a lie. On my Instagram Q&A about gaining muscle. This person was actually asking about muscle gain during pregnancy and being in a surplus. And that's kind of got me on the topic of muscle gain itself. And I was like, you know what? This is a good topic to talk about in the podcast today. So I want to address that question first. I did address it on the podcast. I didn't. I did address it on Instagram, but I want to address it on the podcast too. Just so you know what my thoughts are in regards to gaining creating surplus while you are pregnant. Don't do it. Okay? Why should we not try and gain muscle while we are pregnant? Because one, you don't need to be in a surplus to gain muscle. That's probably the biggest thing. Secondly, when you are pregnant, you need to be eating more calories anyways. You have a child inside of you. You're not eating for two because this child is very small, but you are still eating for more than one. So you need to increase your calorie intake a little bit. Based on the trimester that you're in, you have to work on increasing your calories a little bit. Now look, there's not like an exact number of calories. We have an estimate, give or take, but it's like 200 to 400 calories extra. Then when you're breastfeeding, it's the same thing, 200 to 400 calories extra over this whole period. It's not a huge amount, but again, it's enough. The reason I do not want anyone to go into a surplus while they are pregnant, unless you are severely underweight, unless you are, have some type of, severely underweight, which I hope for your case isn't a drug-related reason or anything bad. But if you are very underweight and you need to become a healthy weight for the baby, that is very important. So you probably should. But the reason I don't recommend people go into a surplus when they are pregnant is because of the risk of gestational diabetes. There's a high chance you can get gestational diabetes when you're pregnant. And you want to avoid that at all costs because diabetes, even when pregnant, is fucking bad, okay? Diabetes obviously in general is bad. You do not want to develop gestational diabetes when you have a child inside of you. Your main responsibility as a parent that has something growing inside of them is to do right by the child. There is a reason you should stop doing all negative things that could negatively affect your child, okay? So please, for the love of God, do not go into a surplus and try and gain unless you are severely underweight. And apart from that, don't do anything else that's going to harm your child. Do not fucking drink alcohol. Do not smoke cigarettes. Do not smoke pot. Do not take drugs. Do not eat certain foods, okay? Not to say that you need to eliminate all foods, but there are certain foods that, have chance of listeria, which is not fucking good. You want to make sure that you're avoiding raw fish ideally. Like some of these things are kind of fringe-ish, but I'd rather play it safe than sorry, okay? At the end of the day, again, you have a responsibility as a parent to fucking raise this child. If you've chosen to have something, make sure you do best by it. Don't be a fucking negligent parent, all right? Here's me giving my 2 cents, being a childless person, just my 2 cents about what I think, with someone bringing into the world. You should probably have some fucking responsibility, You got to have a license to drive a car, yet we don't have a license for people to bring humans into the world, which blows me away. But I'm not here to talk about my beliefs in regards to being a parent. We're here to talk about the gaining side of things. So again, that's just my 2 cents in regards to being pregnant. Apart from that, let's talk about muscle gain. Because I think a lot of people still think you have to go into a gaining phase or basically a gaining phase to gain muscle. Everyone's like, oh, time for a build phase. I need to put on a lot of muscle. I'm just trying to think how to piece this apart. So the reason I think a lot of people assume you have to go into a gaining phase to gain muscle is because it's kind of always been like that in the bodybuilding world, all right? You got to put on weight to gain muscle, you know? You see every year they go on a gaining phase or a build phase, and they go on a cut/deficit. And then at the end of the phase, they can compare last year's photos in their comp to this year's photos in their comp. And they're like, oh, look how much extra muscle I've gained in this time. Where it's like they've put on like, you know, for example, for females probably put on like, again, 5 to 12 kilos. A male could have put on anywhere between 8 to 20 kilos. And then they pull it all off. And like when you look at it, at the end of the day, it's like some of them, you'd be like, oh yeah, you gained some muscle. But like, I don't know about you guys, and this is not taking the piss, like this is just my personal experience when I see people going through massive, you know, constantly going through gaining phases and dieting phases. I don't see a huge difference with a lot of people, okay? And that's not to say anything. It's just like to gain muscle and to think you have to do it in these certain ways doesn't actually equate to a lot of net muscle gain at the end of it, all right? When you go through a massive gaining phase and then you go through a dieting phase, so it's like, you know, you've swung, let's say, on average, let's say 8 kilos. You've gone up 8 kilos, you've gone down 8 kilos. And the net accumulation is 2 kilos of muscle mass. Could you have done that without gaining 8 kilos? Potentially, yes, okay? The things that are going to determine muscle gain does not rely on the calorie intake per se. The reason we know this is because we've seen people gain muscle in a calorie deficit. We have research showing that people can gain muscle in a calorie deficit, maintenance calories, and a calorie surplus. How do we know this? If you've ever been someone who's never been to the gym before, which has been all of us actually, who've been someone who's never gone to the gym, if you eat in a deficit and you are overweight and you get stronger, you gain muscle. If you eat roughly the same amount of food and you don't change your weight, but your body changes because you're in the gym, you gain muscle. If you're underweight or skinnier and you eat more food, you'll gain muscle while you're training. So what's kind of the, what are we trying to think about here? What are we trying to assimilate? No, that's not the word either. What am I trying to say is fucking the better question. This is why I put off the talk for today. I'm feeling a little bit scattered. So how are we trying to determine what is actual muscle gain, right? How are we trying to figure that out? Well, the first thing that needs to be for muscle gain is a stimulus. A stimulus comes from exercise, specifically resistance exercise. At the start, you could literally cycle, you could run, you could do any type of exercise, and you will gain muscle. When I say at the start, at the very early days, for the first maybe 2 or 3 months. But then you need resistance against your body in order to build muscle because the body adapts, all right? And it constantly needs more stimulus than before in order to adapt that stimulus to then be able to continue pushing, all right? So a training stimulus with strength training, or resistance training, I should say, is the key thing you need to focus on for building muscle. So if your goal is to build muscle, you need to be pushing hard in the gym. Now, again, if you're someone who's very early, if you've had time off the gym, long periods of time, if you've never really been consistent with the gym, did I say starting early? If you're someone just starting the gym, I should say. If you're relatively new to this, and when I say new, you haven't had a solid year to 18 months of consistently training. Consistently, I mean you haven't had a month or 2 off in between that time. So if out of 12 months of the year, you've trained consistently for 11 months of the year, if you haven't done that, then you can get away with kind of just training hard for a year based on whatever you're having calorie-wise. Whether your goal is to maintain where you're at, lose body fat, or gain muscle, go into a gaining phase, right? The longer your training age is, your training age, so the more you train, the more years that accumulate, the harder it is going to be to gain muscle. That is to say, if you've trained and you've also been pushing yourself, all right? So for me, for example, from grade 10, which was 2010, I've been in the gym, I've been training 14 years. But basically from grade 10 to probably 2018, so 8 years of me training was wasted training. Why was it wasted training? Well, one, because I had no testosterone in my body, right? Because of my issues when I was younger and I didn't go through puberty properly. And my training was pretty poor. and I didn't really have a structured program, and I was kind of just jumping from here to there. I never really had consistency. I was in the gym for years, but I wasn't properly training, okay? So those 8 years never really did much. Then I put on testosterone replacement in 2019. Then I have a structured program. Then I got coaches to teach me like properly training to be adherent to, I guess you should say. I already knew, I just need someone to keep me adherent. So from 2019 till what? I'd probably even say now, have been a significant, 5 years of constant training, of pushing myself harder, of getting stronger. And in regards to that, obviously being on testosterone has helped massively. I put on a lot of weight and a lot of muscle mass. Before testosterone, I had less testosterone than a female teenager, right? I was 67 kilos. I got up to 97 kilos at the end of 2020. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. I started testosterone therapy in 2018. I got up to 97 kilos at the start of 2020, right? So over a year, I gained about 30 kilos. That's a lot. Was it all muscle? Absolutely not. So I put on weight, I put on fat, and I put on muscle. Obviously, it was helped with me because of testosterone. Then from 2020, I've kind of gone back and forth and sat around this 90 kilo mark, 90 to 93 kilos. You can look at my body composition each year, and I haven't gone through gaining and cutting phases over the last 2 years, and you can still see my body composition has changed. Not just because of testosterone, but because I have been training hard. I have been pushing myself in the gym. I've been increasing weights. I've been increasing my volume. I've been increasing my intensity. And because of that, I have made good muscle gain. I've made faster muscle gain than a lot of people because, again, testosterone has still helped with that. But the key important thing here was the training stimulus and also the protein intake, okay? So you need material in order to build muscle. That material is going to come from protein. They're not the only building blocks of muscle. Carbohydrates actually also impact muscle growth too. So don't fucking do keto. Don't cut out carbohydrates. You need glycogen, you need carbohydrates, but you're gonna really need that protein in. And when I say you need the protein, it's about 1.6 to 2.2 grams like we talk about. Anywhere between that range. That's the material to repair and build, okay? So you have to train hard and you have to eat enough protein. They're your two criteria. If you want the highest chance of gaining muscle, then a surplus would probably be beneficial because you have more material that the body can have access to and you have more energy than is necessary to maintain your weight, which means you can use that extra energy to build muscle. But genetics play a part in that. Some of us have worse genetics, some of us have better genetics than others. Some people are going to gain all muscle. Some people are going to gain a little bit of muscle and more fat. Some people, most people, probably gain about a 50-50, so probably about, based on how much weight you gain, 50% muscle, 50% fat. It's going to be all different. But you have to have the training in place and you have to have the protein intake, okay? Once you are nailing those two things consistently, if you don't want to gain weight, which I don't recommend for a lot of people, again, unless you're underweight, do you really want to go through every fucking year gaining weight, then dieting it all off and going through that up and down to maybe gain another 1 or 2 kilos of muscle? Fuck that. Even for me now, I feel uncomfortable when I'm gaining. And I know I'm not fat, but I don't fucking feel good at all. I don't want to buy another fucking suit. I don't want to buy another pair of clothes. I don't want to have to go through fucking wear baggy shirts and shit all the time, change all my outfits for a certain amount of time, then cut again. That shit's expensive. And most of you watching this aren't fucking bodybuilders anyways. You want to look good, you want to feel good, you want to be healthier overall. You don't have to go through this stupid cutting and gaining phases, okay? Most of you need to, again, get enough protein in and train hard. Training hard is probably the hardest thing for a lot of you because you have normal life, right? You might have kids, you have a job, you got family, you got friends, and it's probably just hard to be consistent. And a lot of you probably don't even fucking write down your workouts and record what you did in the gym, which is a detrimental thing if you aren't recording your stuff. If you're not recording it, how the fuck are you supposed to know if you're pushing harder or not? That, and you don't have a program to follow. You just randomly create shit. Some days you'll do 3 reps of fucking deadlifts. Other days you'll do 10 reps of deadlifts. People are oh, I just want to see what my 1 rep max is this week. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Just randomly do a 1 rep max to see where you're at? What the fuck? That's no training structure. So you do need some training structure if your goal is to gain as much muscle mass as possible. And then in saying that, again, if you want the surplus, you don't need to go on these massive bulks. Like, think about how many calories you burn in general, let's say. Let's say you burn 2,300 calories in general, just like without the gym. You just burn 2,300 calories. And the reason I say without the gym is because the gym probably burns 150 to 200 calories extra. You don't burn that amount of calories. You don't burn a lot of calories extra weight training. I'm so sorry, but you don't. If you're doing CrossFit, yes. You know, if you're doing, I'd just say CrossFit, to be honest. That's about it. If you're doing CrossFit, you're going to burn a lot of calories and you're going to build muscle. CrossFit's pretty fucking cool if you can do it. But apart from that, whether you're a powerlifter, ollie lifter, just normal gym goer, you aren't going to burn that many calories. And that's okay. Because that means if you add another 200 calories on to your day, so instead of being, did I say 2,300? I think I said 2,300. So if you have 2,500 calories a day, so a small 200 calorie surplus, and you just sit at that, and you're not so much focused on your weight moving up every week or anything like that, you're just giving yourself a little bit of extra food and you're training consistently each week. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you give it a good crack of consistently training hard, eat enough protein, maybe eating a little bit more food, give it 6 to 12 months and you're going to see body comp changes. Are they going to be life-changing? No, because nothing's going to fucking happen in 6 to 12 months of just maintaining and trying to gain a little bit. It's going to take a fair while, but that's not to say that it's pointless. It just means that it's going to take a while. And what's wrong with that? Nothing. I don't think so. If you say you want health and fitness to be a part of your life, then why the fuck does it matter how much muscle you gain this year or next year? It doesn't fucking matter. You've got a body comp you want to get to. It takes effort. It takes consistency. It takes time. Anything worth getting takes time, right? Where I am today, like, I don't want to fucking toot my own horn. There are people that look way better than me, but I feel pretty fucking good with how I look at the moment, and people compliment me on that. It didn't happen last year or the year before or the year before. Even on testosterone, it's happened since 2018. 6 fucking years, okay? So it's going to take you longer because you're not taking steroids. And that's okay. Because guess what? It goes quick. As slow as it goes, it also goes quick. So if your goal is to gain muscle, I would recommend most of you probably just need to work on maintenance, okay? And if your weight goes up, it goes up. But like, you don't have to go on a dedicated surplus. Because I'm telling you right now, unless you are someone who has started on the skinnier side, so if you are someone who's leaner, underweight, and you probably could use an extra 10 or 15 kilos just worth of weight overall, then you are someone, luckily enough, that's probably going to put on a fair bit of muscle mass in a actual surplus, and you need to add some meat to your bones, basically. Do that. That's a good thing. You can go on a surplus. Anyone else, majority of people, you're probably a little bit overweight, so you need to lose some body fat, which you can still gain muscle while losing body fat. Again, you have enough protein, you train hard, you'll gain muscle. Or for those of you that are kind of comfortable with where your weight is at the moment, then just focus on maintenance and training hard. Again, like, I just want you guys to think about this, because at the end of the day, do you want to, if you're someone who's like, I'm going to step on stage, I'm going to bodybuild, I'm going to give it all this I can, fucking go for it. But it's like, I got other shit I want to focus on in life, and I'm pretty sure you do too. I know you want to look better, and that's great. You know, it's going to take time for you to look better, but you don't need to go through the rigmarole of what people who are fully dedicated to obsessing about macro tracking, to doing these gaining and cutting phases. You don't have to do that shit to get to where you want to go. Like, you don't have to at all. And that's a good thing, because again, do you want to spend money on more suits? Do you want to spend money on just more clothing in general? Do you want to go through times where you just fucking feel uncomfortable? You know, everyone's like, oh, well, you know, you've got to embrace the uncomfortability. If you want to gain muscle, you got to go through that surplus. Yeah, if you want to step on stage. Everyone else, you don't have to. Like, these dumb fucking coaches are putting people in surpluses who do not need to be in surpluses. Females going into surplus phases and not feeling comfortable with their body. And it's like, okay, let's not do it. A perfect example with my client, Christina. So she has been in a surplus for, let's have a look while I'm telling you guys. This is a definition of someone who needed to go into a surplus. Like, she wasn't underweight, but she was a skinnier girl, and she had a good foundation to put some muscle mass on, okay? So she started with me at 55, right? She is now 57. Now, that may not seem like a lot, okay? She's gained 2 kilos. Doesn't seem like a lot. This is what's happened over this time. Just so you understand, her glutes are up by 6 centimeters, okay? Her chest is up by 5 centimeters. her arms are up by 4 centimeters. So her waist is the exact same. Okay? So you got to think about this. Does 2 kilos, do you think 2 kilos equals 6 centimeters on glutes, 6 centimeters on chest, and 5 centimeters on arms? She was 25 on arms, she was 93 on glutes, and she was 81 on chest. She is now, so from 25 to 29 is 4 centimeters on her arms. It's actually 29.7, so nearly 5 centimeters on her arms. All right. She's gone from legs being, her legs were actually 47. No, sorry, not her legs, her glutes. I apologize, I'm reading all the wrong stats. So the arms are right. The arms are up by nearly 5 centimeters. Okay, so 25 to 29.7. Her glutes are from 93 to 98.6, so nearly 6 centimeters on her glutes. And her chest is gone from 81 up to 87. So 6 centimeters on her chest. Think about that. That is a fuckload of muscle mass for a female who is around the 55, 57 kilo mark. Hasn't gone to her waist. Her waist is still the exact same. So she's gained that amount of muscle. She looks fucking dense. Not a lot of fat gain, if any, to be honest. And it's only 2 kilos because she's been focusing on a very small surplus over time. All right? Like literally the whole time, her calories have roughly been around the 2,300, 2,400 mark. Small surplus consistently. Weight hasn't moved every week. It's just occasionally gone up over time, and she's gained a good amount of muscle. She fucking looks great. She's got a good amount of muscle. She hasn't had to go through a gaining and cutting phase, and she's fucking happy with where she's at. That's where you want to get to, okay? Now, in saying that, for her, this has taken a year, okay? Think about that, a year, and you could be like, oh, I'm not making progress. If you're looking at the scale, yeah, you're not. But you look back at those measurements, that's a fuckload of a difference in a year of committing to training hard, because she has been pushing it hard, and she got some good results. So today's podcast, I just want you guys to think about that. In order to gain muscle, you don't have to go through these phases, right? If you got weight to lose, go into a deficit, train hard. If you want to kind of stay with where you're at, not fucking waste money on clothes all the time, stay where you're at, train hard, record your workouts, work on getting better each week, and then make sure you're eating plenty of protein. Honestly, training is going to be your stimulus. Protein is going to be your recovery. Those two things consistently over time. And if you are lean aside and you need to put on weight, put on weight. And that is the podcast, guys. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was informative. Before you go, if you enjoyed this podcast, please do me a favor, give it a share. I haven't seen podcasts shared lately. I want you guys to give it a share. And if you haven't, take 2 minutes and please give this a 5-star review. I'm over 300 episodes now. I want to be able to reach more people. I need your help to do it. So if you just take a second, leave it a review. Literally takes you like fucking 5 seconds. I'm happy to give out this free information, but I need you to do something for me. All right? Hope it was helpful. And until next time, my friends, I'll speak to you then.